The morning bell rings through the hallways of Lincoln High School, and students rush to their first period classes. Among them, a 17-year-old girl walks slowly toward the music room, her backpack heavy on her shoulders. She keeps her head down, watching her worn sneakers move across the polished floor. Her name is Maya, and she has perfected the art of being invisible. For 3 years at this school, she has managed to blend into the background like wallpaper. Teachers rarely call on her, classmates forget she exists. And that's exactly how she likes it. Maya slips into the music classroom and takes her usual seat in the back corner. The room smells like old wood and sheet music, with mismatched chairs arranged in rows facing an ancient piano. 30 students fill the space, chatting loudly about weekend plans and upcoming tests. Mrs. Wilson, the music teacher, enters carrying a stack of papers and a coffee cup that's seen better days. She's been teaching here for 15 years, and it shows in her tired eyes and the way she sighs before speaking to the class. "All right, everyone, settle down," Mrs. Wilson announces, setting her things on the cluttered desk. "I have some important news about your final project." Maya's stomach tightens. She hates projects, especially ones that might require her to stand in front of people. She pulls her sleeves down over her hands, a nervous habit she's had since childhood. "This semester, each of you will perform a solo piece for our spring recital," Mrs. Wilson continues. "Your parents and families are invited, and it counts for 30% of your final grade." The room erupts in groans and excited chatter. Some students seem thrilled at the chance to show off, while others look as worried as Maya feels. She sinks deeper into her chair, wishing she could disappear completely. Maya has been taking music class because it's required, not because she wants to be here. She plays along during group activities, always choosing simple parts that won't draw attention. When they sing together, she moves her lips but barely makes a sound. Perfect invisibility. What none of them know is that Maya's fingers are special. Hidden beneath her long sleeves, her fingertips are slightly calloused from years of practice. Her hands are strong and flexible, trained by countless hours of silent work. But she keeps this secret locked away, just like everything else important in her life. Mrs. Wilson starts calling names from her attendance sheet, assigning pieces based on what she thinks each student can handle. The popular kids get the beautiful classical pieces, the ones that sound impressive and make parents proud. Students like Maya get simple arrangements, basic melodies that won't challenge anyone. "Amanda, you'll play Mozart's Sonata in C major," Mrs. Wilson announces to a confident girl in the front row who always raises her hand. "Perfect," Amanda replies with a bright smile. "I've been wanting to try Mozart." Maya watches this exchange from her corner, knowing exactly what's coming. She gets something easy and forgettable, play it adequately enough to pass, and fade back into the background. That's how these things always work. "Tyler, you'll take Bach's Minuet in G," Mrs. Wilson continues down her list. The assignments keep coming. "Beethoven for the star student who plans to study music in college." A modern piece for the kid who plays guitar in a garage band. "Chopin for the girl whose parents pay for expensive private lessons." Maya half listens, mentally preparing herself for whatever simple piece will be thrown her way. She's already planning how to practice just enough to get through it without embarrassing herself, but not so much that anyone notices she's trying. Then something unexpected happens. "Oh, no," Mrs. Wilson says, checking her watch. "I just remembered. Jessica won't be here for the rest of the week. She's got that college audition tour with her parents." Jessica is the school's music star, the student everyone knows will get into a prestigious conservatory. She practices 4 hours a day and performs at regional competitions. Her assigned piece was supposed to be the highlight of the recital. Mrs. Wilson looks around the room, scanning the faces of her students. Her eyes pass over the obvious choices. They're already assigned their own challenging pieces. She needs someone who can take on Jessica's assignment without causing a scheduling nightmare. "Maya," she says suddenly, and Maya's heart stops. "You'll take Jessica's piece instead?" The classroom falls quiet. Even the chattering students sense something unusual happening. Maya has never been singled out for anything in this class, never been given any responsibility beyond showing up and staying quiet. But Mrs. Wilson, Maya starts to protest, her voice barely a whisper. I don't think I can. Nonsense, Mrs. Wilson interrupts, already writing Maya's name next to the assignment. It's just for participation points anyway. Do your best with the parts you can manage and don't worry about the rest. Maya's mouth goes dry as she watches Mrs. Wilson write down the piece, Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor. She knows this piece. She knows it better than she knows her own reflection. But Mrs. Wilson doesn't need to know that. Chopin's first ballade is not a beginner's piece. It's not even an intermediate piece. It's the kind of music that makes professional pianists nervous, with technical passages that can trip up even the most experienced players. The emotional depth required to play it well takes years to develop. Mrs. Wilson has just assigned the musical equivalent of asking someone to climb Mount Everest when they've never been hiking. I'll email you the sheet music tonight, Mrs. Wilson tells Maya, already moving on to the next student. The recital is in 6 weeks, so you'll have plenty of time to learn what you can. Maya nods silently, her mind spinning. Around her, other students whisper about how glad they are not to be in her shoes. Some look sympathetic. Others seem amused by the obvious mismatch between Maya and such a difficult piece, but Maya isn't thinking about their reactions. She's thinking about the secret that's been burning inside her for years. The truth that no one in this school, not Mrs. Wilson, not her classmates, not even her own parents, fully understands. She's thinking about the countless hours she's spent in hidden places, practicing on keyboards that weren't hers, learning pieces that were supposed to be beyond her reach. She's thinking about the community center's forgotten piano in the basement, where she's played this exact ballade hundreds of times. As the bell rings and students file out of the classroom, Maya remains in her seat for a moment longer, her heart pounds, not from fear of the assignment, but from something much more dangerous, the possibility that her carefully constructed invisibility might finally be challenged. She gathers her things slowly, avoiding eye contact with anyone who might want to offer sympathy or advice. As she walks toward the door, Mrs. Wilson calls out cheerfully, "Don't stress about it, Maya. Just play the easy parts and skip the rest. No one expects miracles." Maya nods and steps into the crowded hallway, but inside her head, a different conversation is happening. She knows every note of that ballade, every phrase, every technical challenge. She knows it because she's been preparing for this moment her entire life. Even though she never expected it to come, the question now isn't whether she can play Chopin's Ballade. The question is whether she's brave enough to let the world see who she really is underneath all that carefully practiced invisibility. As she walks home that afternoon, Maya's mind races with possibilities and fears. In 6 weeks, she either continue to hide in plain sight, or everything will change forever. The choice is hers, and for the first time in her life, that terrifies and excites her in equal measure. The apartment is quiet when Maya pushes open the front door that evening. She drops her backpack by the entrance and listens to the familiar silence that greets her every day after school. Her mom won't be home from the hospital for another 4 hours. She's pulling a double shift again this week. Her dad is already getting ready for his night job, driving for one of those ride-sharing apps that keeps food on their table. "Hey, kiddo," her father calls from the bedroom where he's changing into his driving clothes. "How was school?" "Fine," Maya replies, the same answer she gives every day. She's perfected the art of fine, not good enough to raise questions, not bad enough to cause worry. Her father appears in the doorway, adjusting his baseball cap. He looks tired, the kind of deep exhaustion that comes from working 2 jobs just to pay rent in this expensive city. "There's leftover pizza in the fridge. Your mom left some money on the counter if you want to order something else." "Pizzas." "Good," Maya says, though she's not really thinking about food right now. After her father leaves with a quick kiss on her forehead and a reminder to lock the door behind him, Maya finds herself alone with her secret. She walks over to the corner of their small living room, where an old upright piano sits against the wall. The piano isn't much to look at. The wood is scratched and faded, several keys stick when you press them, and it hasn't been tuned in years. Her parents bought it at a garage sale when she was 7, thinking it might be nice for her to learn a few songs. They had no idea they were bringing home the key to Maya's soul. Maya sits on the wobbly bench and lifts the fallboard that covers the keys. Even after all these years, this moment still gives her butterflies. This is when she stops being the invisible girl from school and becomes who she really is. She places her hands on the keys and begins to play the opening notes of Chopin's Ballade No. One flow from the piano like water finding its way downhill. Her fingers move with the confidence of someone who has played this piece hundreds of times. Every phrase is perfectly shaped. Every technical passage executed with stunning precision. This isn't the fumbling attempt of a high school student trying to learn a difficult piece. This is artistry. Maya's eyes close as she loses herself in the music. The cramped apartment fades away, the stress of keeping her secret disappears, and for these precious minutes she is completely free. Her hands dance across the keys, navigating the complex passages that would challenge even professional pianists. The ballade tells a story through its music. It starts quietly, almost hesitantly, then builds through moments of triumph and tragedy before reaching a thunderous climax that demands everything from the performer. Maya knows this story by heart because she's lived it every day for the past 10 years. When she finishes, her hands rest on the keys for a moment before the silence of the apartment returns. She opens her eyes and looks around the small room. Remembering where she is and who she's supposed to be, this double life started when she was 7 years old. While other kids were watching cartoons after school, Maya was glued to her phone, watching piano tutorials on YouTube. She would pause and rewind the videos over and over, memorizing finger positions and studying how the great pianists move their hands. At first, she could only practice on the garage sale piano when her parents weren't home. The sound carried through their thin apartment walls, and she didn't want to disturb the neighbors or draw attention to how much time she was spending at the keys. When she turned 10, Maya discovered something that changed everything. The community center 3 blocks from her school had a piano room in the basement that nobody seemed to use. The door was usually unlocked, and the room was forgotten by everyone except the janitor who cleaned it once a week. Maya started going there every day after school. She would tell her parents she was at the library, which wasn't completely a lie, since she often stopped there first to check out books about music theory and piano technique. Then she would slip into that basement room and practice for hours. The community center piano was a beautiful old grand piano, much better than the one at home. Someone had donated it years ago, but the center didn't have a music program anymore, so it just sat there collecting dust. Maya felt like she was rescuing it every time she played year after year. She taught herself pieces that most students only attempt after years of formal lessons. She learned Bach's complex fugues by watching her fingers in the reflection of the piano's black surface. She mastered Mozart's sonatas by playing them over and over until they felt like breathing. She conquered Beethoven's powerful compositions by pouring all her teenage emotions into the keys, but Chopin was different. Chopin was her secret love affair with music. There's something about Chopin's compositions that speaks directly to the heart. His pieces are technically demanding, yes, but they're also deeply emotional. They require not just skill, but soul. Maya found herself drawn to his ballades, his nocturnes, his etudes, pieces that let her express feelings she couldn't put into words. The first ballade became her signature piece, though no one knew it existed. She had been playing it for 3 years, perfecting every nuance, understanding every emotional shift. When Mrs. Wilson assigned it to her today, Maya almost laughed at the irony. Now, sitting at her family's old piano, Maya faces a decision that could change everything. For 10 years, she has kept her musical abilities hidden. She learned early that being different made her a target. Her family moved around a lot when she was younger, her dad chasing better jobs, her mom looking for affordable places to live, and Maya discovered that each new school brought the same challenges. Kids who stood out got picked on. Kids who were too good at something got resented. Kids who came from families without money were already starting from behind. So Maya learned to be invisible. She learned to play down her intelligence in academic classes, to avoid trying too hard. In sports, to never volunteer for anything that would put her in the spotlight. It was safer to be forgotten than to be noticed for the wrong reasons, but music was different. Music was hers. In that community center basement, Maya could be brilliant without consequences. She could play with passion and skill and artistry, and the only audience was the dust motes dancing in the afternoon sunlight that filtered through the small windows. She became two people, Maya, the invisible student, and Mia, the pianist who could make a piano sing. The problem is that Mrs. Wilson has just asked one Maya to become the other. As she sits in the quiet apartment, Maya's mind races through possibilities. She could play the piece badly on purpose, making it look like she's struggling with music that's too difficult for her. She could pretend to practice for a few weeks and then perform a simplified version, hitting just enough notes to pass the class, or she could do something that terrifies her more than any other option. She could play it the way she knows how. To play it, Maya gets up from the piano bench and walks to the window. Outside, the city continues its evening routine, people coming home from work, kids playing in the courtyard, life moving forward like it does every day. But inside this small apartment, a 17-year-old girl is wrestling with a choice. That could reveal a secret she's been keeping her entire life. She thinks about Mrs. Wilson's dismissive words, "Just play the easy parts and skip the rest." No one expects miracles. What Mrs. Wilson doesn't know is that Maya doesn't believe in skipping the hard parts. For 10 years she has practiced precisely because the hard parts are where the magic lives. The easy parts are just the setup, the difficult passages are where a pianist's true skill shows. Maya returns to the piano and plays the ballade one more time, slowly and thoughtfully. As her fingers move across the keys, she realizes that hiding this gift hasn't protected her, it has only made her smaller. The music ends, and Maya sits in the silence of her family's apartment, knowing that in 6 weeks everything might change. The girl who has spent her life being invisible is about to face her greatest fear, being seen, but maybe, just maybe, being seen is exactly what she needs. 6 weeks pass faster than Maya ever imagined possible. Every day after school, she goes through the motions of practicing at home, playing simplified versions of the ballade just in case her parents are listening. But late at night, when the apartment is quiet and her parents are either asleep or at work, she plays the piece the way it's meant to be played. The community center basement becomes her sanctuary during these final weeks. She practices the ballade over and over, not because she needs to learn it, but because she's trying to decide which version of herself to reveal. The safe version that will blend back into invisibility, or the real version that might change. Everything, the morning of the recital, arrives gray and drizzly. Maya wakes up with her stomach in knots, having barely slept the night before. She stares at the ceiling of her small bedroom, listening to her mother getting ready for work in the kitchen. "Maya, honey, are you excited about today?" her mom calls. Through the thin walls, Maya sits up in bed, running her hands through her messy hair. "Yeah, I guess so," she calls back, though excited isn't the word she would use. Terrified seems more accurate. Her parents have been looking forward to this recital for weeks. They've both managed to get the evening off work, which almost never happens. Her father even bought a new shirt for the occasion, the first new clothes he's purchased for himself in months. They're proud of their daughter for being chosen to play such an important piece. Even though they don't really understand what that means, Maya gets dressed slowly, choosing her most comfortable jeans and a simple black sweater. She wants to look nice for her parents, but she also wants to feel like herself. As she brushes her teeth, she catches her reflection in the bathroom mirror and barely recognizes the girl staring back at her. For 17 years, she has perfected the art of being forgettable. But today, that might all change. School passes in a blur of nervous energy. Maya can barely concentrate in her classes, and her teachers notice her distraction. In math class, she stares out the window. In English, she doodles piano keys in the margins of her notebook. At lunch, she can't eat anything, pushing food around her tray while her stomach churns. "You okay, Maya?" asks Alex, one of the few classmates who sometimes talks to her. "You look kind of pale." Just nervous about tonight, Maya admits, which is the understatement of the century. Oh, right, the music thing, Alex nods. I'm sure. You'll do fine. It's just a school recital, right? How hard can it be? Maya forces a smile and nods, but inside she's thinking about how wrong Alex is. This isn't just a school recital anymore. This is the moment when she either continues living as half of herself or risks everything to become whole. The afternoon stretches on forever. Maya finds herself walking past the music room several times, seeing Mrs. Wilson setting up chairs and adjusting the old piano that will soon either betray her secret or set her free. Each time she passes, her heart beats a little faster. By the time the final bell rings, Maya feels like she might throw up. She walks home slowly, taking the long way to give herself time to think. But thinking just makes everything worse, so she tries to focus on breathing instead. Her parents are already getting ready when she arrives home. Her mom has put on her nicest dress, the one she saves for special occasions, like job interviews and parent-teacher conferences. Her dad is adjusting his new shirt in the bathroom mirror, trying to get the collar just right. There's our star, her mom says with a bright smile, though Maya can see the exhaustion around her eyes from working double shifts all week. I'm not a star, Mom, Maya says quietly. I'm just playing a song. Well, you're our star, her father adds, appearing in the doorway. We're so proud of you, kiddo. Mrs. Wilson told us you're playing one of the most difficult pieces in the whole recital. Maya's stomach drops. She had hoped her parents wouldn't know about the difficulty level of her assignment. Now there's even more pressure to either live up to their expectations or let them down gently. They arrive at the school an hour before the recital begins. The auditorium is already bustling with families claiming seats and students pacing nervously. Backstage, Maya has never seen this many people in the school auditorium. It's usually reserved for graduation ceremonies and the occasional assembly. Mrs. Wilson spots Maya and waves her over. There you are. Are you ready for tonight? Maya nods, though ready feels like the wrong word. She's prepared, she's practiced, she knows every note of the piece by heart. But ready suggests she's made a decision about how to play it, and she still hasn't done that. Remember what I told you, Mrs. Wilson says kindly, patting Maya's shoulder. Just do your best with the parts you can manage. Don't worry about the difficult sections. Everyone will understand. Maya watches Mrs. Wilson walk away, and she realizes something important. Mrs. Wilson genuinely believes she's being helpful and supportive. She has no idea that her words are actually making everything more complicated. Backstage, Maya finds a quiet corner where she can sit and try to calm her nerves. Around her, other students are warming up, running through scales and practicing their pieces one last time. Some look confident and excited. Others appear as nervous as she feels. She recognizes most of her classmates, though she's never really talked to many of them. There's David, who plays guitar in a local band and chose a modern piece that showcases his style. There's Lily, whose parents pay for expensive private lessons and who's performing a beautiful Mozart sonata. There's Roberto, who's been playing piano since he was 5 and chose a challenging Bach invention. All of them belong here in a way that Maya has never allowed herself to belong anywhere. The auditorium begins to fill with families. Maya peeks through the curtain and sees her parents in the third row, saving a seat between them for her after her performance. Her father is looking around with wide eyes. He's never been in a school auditorium before, having missed most of Maya's school events due to work schedules. Her mother is checking her phone, probably making sure the hospital doesn't need her to come in early for her night shift. Other families fill the rows around them. Some parents have professional cameras ready to record their children's performances. Others are clearly music lovers themselves, discussing the program and recognizing the more challenging pieces. Maya realizes that in about an hour, all of these people will be listening to her play. They'll either hear a struggling student attempting something beyond her abilities, or they'll hear something that might change how everyone sees her forever. Mrs. Wilson appears at the microphone on stage, welcoming everyone to the spring recital. She begins introducing the program, explaining how hard the students have worked, and how proud the school is of their musical achievements. Maya's hands start to shake as she realizes her moment is approaching. She looks at her fingers, these hands that have spent years learning to create beauty in secret. These hands that know exactly how to bring Chopin's Ballade to life. The first few students perform their pieces. Maya watches from the wings, seeing how the audience responds to each performance. They clap politely for the simpler pieces, and with more enthusiasm for the more challenging ones. She notices how the mood in the room shifts depending on the quality of each performance. Then she hears Mrs. Wilson announce her name. Our next performer is Maya Chun, playing Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor. Maya's legs feel weak as she walks across the stage toward the piano bench. The auditorium lights are brighter than she expected, and she can barely make out individual faces in the audience. But she knows her parents are out there, watching with pride and hope. She sits at the piano bench and adjusts it slightly, the way she's done thousands of times in the community center basement. She places her hands on the keys and takes a deep breath. This is it. This is the moment when Maya, the invisible student, either stays hidden forever, or Maya, the pianist, finally comes home. She looks up at the audience one more time, sees her parents leaning forward in their seats, sees Mrs. Wilson watching from the wings with encouraging eyes, sees all these people who are about to discover something that has been true about her for 10 years. Maya places her fingers on the keys and begins to play. The first notes of Chopin's Ballade float through the auditorium, and immediately, something changes. These aren't the hesitant, simplified notes everyone expected to hear. These are the real opening measures of one of classical music's most beautiful and challenging pieces, played with the confidence and artistry of someone who truly understands the music. Maya closes her eyes and lets the music take over. For the first time in her life, she stops being invisible and becomes exactly who she's always been. The opening notes of Chopin's Ballade slice through the auditorium like a knife cutting through silk. Maya's fingers move across the keys with impossible grace, and the sound that emerges from the old-school piano is nothing like what anyone expected to hear tonight. In the audience, conversations stop mid-sentence. Parents who were whispering to each other about weekend plans suddenly find themselves leaning forward in their seats. The casual atmosphere that has filled the room all evening disappears in an instant, replaced by something much more intense. Maya's mother grabs her father's arm, her eyes wide with shock. "Is that really our Maya?" she whispers, but her husband can't answer. He's staring at their daughter with his mouth slightly open, as if he's seeing her for the first time in his life. Mrs. Wilson stands frozen in the wings, her program forgotten in her trembling hands. She has taught music for 15 years, and she knows the difference between a student struggling through a difficult piece and a true musician making art. What she's hearing right now is definitely the latter. Maya plays with her eyes closed, lost in the music she's known by heart for years. The complex passages that should trip up even advanced students flow from her fingers like water finding its way downhill. Every phrase is perfectly shaped. Every technical challenge executed with breathtaking precision and deep musical understanding. The ballade tells its story through Maya's hands. It begins quietly, almost hesitantly, like someone gathering courage to speak a truth they've kept hidden. Then it builds, growing stronger and more confident, reaching moments of triumph and heartbreak that demand everything from both the performer and the listener. Maya navigates the piece like she's walking through her own home in the dark, every note exactly where it should be, every transition smooth and natural. This isn't a 17-year-old student attempting something beyond her abilities. This is artistry that belongs on concert stages and in recording studios. In the third row, Maya's parents sit in stunned silence. Her father, who works double shifts driving strangers around the city just to pay rent, feels tears starting to form in his eyes. Her mother, who spends her days taking care of sick people at the hospital, has forgotten how to breathe. They knew their daughter was special. All parents think their kids are special, but they had no idea she was special like this. They've been living with a prodigy and didn't even know it. Around them, other families are having similar reactions. The woman behind Maya's mother pulls out her phone and starts recording, though she's not sure why. The man in the front row, who came reluctantly to watch his nephew play a simple folk song, finds himself completely captivated by this unexpected performance. David, the guitar player who's waiting backstage for his turn, stares through the curtain, with his mouth hanging open. "Who is that?" he whispers to Lily, the student with private lessons. Lily shakes her head slowly. "That's Maya Chun. She sits in the back corner of our music class. I don't think I've ever heard her speak above a whisper." "That's impossible," Roberto, the batch player, joins their conversation. "I've been playing piano for 12 years and I couldn't play that piece like that." "Where did she learn to play like that?" The three students watch in amazement as their quiet, invisible classmate performs with the skill and artistry of a professional musician. They've sat in the same classroom with her for 3 years and never suspected she possessed this kind of talent. Maya reaches the most technically demanding section of the ballade, a passage that requires lightning-fast fingerwork and perfect coordination between both hands. Most pianists approach this section with visible concentration, their faces tense with effort. But Maya plays it like she's having a conversation with an old friend, her expression peaceful and completely focused. The audience holds its collective breath as the music builds toward its thunderous climax. Maya's whole body is involved now, her shoulders and arms working together to produce the powerful sound that Chopin demanded from this piece. The old-school piano, which usually sounds tired and out of tune, seems to come alive under her hands. Mrs. Wilson realizes she's crying. In all her years of teaching, she's never witnessed anything like this. She thinks about all the times Maya sat quietly in the back corner, never volunteering answers, never drawing attention to herself. How many other students has she underestimated? How many other hidden talents are sitting in her classroom right now? The ballade reaches its emotional peak, and Maya pours everything into these final passages. Years of secret practice, years of hiding who she really is, years of dreams she never dared to speak out loud. It all flows through her fingers and into the music. In the audience, people have forgotten this is a high school recital. Parents, who came to politely applaud their own children's simple pieces, are experiencing something they never expected. The rare privilege of witnessing true musical genius in action. Maya's performance isn't just technically perfect, it's deeply emotional. She understands the story that Chopin embedded in this music, and she tells it with the maturity of someone much older than 17. The piece speaks of struggle and triumph, of dreams deferred and hopes fulfilled, of the courage it takes to show the world who you really are as the ballade moves toward its conclusion. The tension in the auditorium becomes almost unbearable. Maya's hands dance across the keys in the final passages, bringing Chopin's masterpiece to its powerful, definitive ending. The last notes ring through the auditorium and then fade into absolute silence. For a moment that seems to last forever, nobody moves, nobody breathes. The silence is so complete that Maya can hear her own heartbeat. Then slowly, like a dam breaking, the applause begins. It starts with Maya's father, who springs to his feet without thinking, his hands coming together in thunderous claps. Her mother follows immediately, tears streaming down her face as she applauds her daughter with everything she has. The rest of the audience follows their lead, rising from their seats in a standing ovation that fills the auditorium with sound. But this isn't the polite, encouraging applause they've been giving all evening. This is the kind of applause usually reserved for professional concerts, the kind that comes from people who have just witnessed something extraordinary. Maya opens her eyes and looks out at the audience, blinking in the bright stage lights. She sees her parents on their feet, crying and clapping. She sees Mrs. Wilson in the wings, her face a mixture of awe and embarrassment. She sees strangers throughout the auditorium standing and applauding with genuine enthusiasm. For the first time in her life, Maya is the center of attention, and instead of wanting to disappear, she feels a strange sense of completeness. This is who she's always been inside. This is the girl who spent years hiding in basement practice rooms and playing quietly when no one was listening. Maya stands and takes a small bow, her legs shaking slightly. The applause continues, showing no signs of stopping. She can see her classmates backstage, their faces filled with amazement and respect. She can see audience members wiping tears from their eyes and shaking their heads in disbelief. As she walks off the stage, Maya feels like she's floating. The girl who entered this auditorium as an invisible student is leaving as someone completely different. Not because she's changed, but because she's finally allowed the world to see who she's always been. Mrs. Wilson is waiting for her in the wings, and for a moment the teacher can't find words. Finally, she manages to speak, her voice shaky with emotion. Maya, I don't understand. Where did you learn to play like that? Maya looks at her teacher, this woman who has unknowingly been part of her secret for 3 years, and gives her the same quiet smile she's always had. I've been practicing, she says simply, but even as she says it, Maya knows that nothing will ever be simple again. The secret she's carried for 10 years is out now, and there's no putting it back. The girl who spent her life being invisible has just announced herself to the world in the most spectacular way possible. As the recital continues around them, Maya realizes that her life has just changed forever. The question now isn't whether she can keep hiding her talent, it's what she's going to do with it now that everyone knows the truth. The rest of the recital passes in a blur. Maya tries to slip back to her seat with her parents, hoping to fade into the background like she always does, but it's impossible now. People keep turning around to look at her, whispering to each other, and pointing discreetly in her direction. Her mother hasn't stopped crying since Maya finished playing. She holds her daughter's hand tightly, as if she's afraid Maya might disappear if she lets go. Her father keeps shaking his head in amazement, looking at Maya like he's seeing her for the first time. Honey, her mother whispers during the next performance, why didn't you tell us you could play like that? Maya doesn't know how to answer. How do you explain 10 years of secret practice? How do you tell your parents that you've been hiding the most important part of yourself because you were afraid of what might happen if people knew the truth? I didn't want to make a big deal about it, Maya says quietly, which is the biggest understatement of her life. When the recital ends and the lights come up, Maya hopes she can escape quickly with her parents. But before they can even stand up, people start approaching them. Parents who don't even know Maya's name suddenly want to talk to her family. Strangers are pulling out business cards and talking about music schools and competitions. Excuse me, says a well-dressed woman who appears beside their row. I'm Dr. Patricia Holmes from the Regional Music Conservatory. I was wondering if I could have a moment to speak with you about your daughter. Maya's parents look confused. They've never heard of the Regional Music Conservatory, and they certainly never expected anyone like Dr. Holmes to be interested in their family. I'm sorry, but there must be some mistake, Maya's father says politely. Maya just plays piano as a hobby. She's never had formal lessons or anything like that. Dr. Holmes smiles, but Maya can see the excitement in her eyes. Mr. Chun, what your daughter just performed is not hobby-level playing. That was conservatory-level artistry. I've been teaching piano for 25 years, and I rarely hear students play with that kind of musical maturity and technical skill. Maya feels her stomach tightening again. This is exactly what she was afraid of. Too much attention. Too many expectations. Too many people suddenly interested in her life. Could we perhaps set up a meeting to discuss Maya's musical education? Dr. Holmes continues. We have scholarship programs for exceptional students, and I believe your daughter would be an excellent candidate. More people approach before Maya's parents can answer. There's a man who says he's a talent scout for a youth orchestra. There's a woman who runs a summer music camp for gifted students. There's even someone from the local newspaper who wants to write a story about the hidden prodigy at Lincoln High School. Maya watches this scene unfold with growing panic. These people are talking about her like she's not even there, making plans for her future without asking what she wants. This is her worst nightmare, being the center of attention, having everyone's expectations focused on her. I need some air, Maya tells her parents, and she slips away before they can stop her. She finds herself in the empty hallway outside the auditorium, leaning against the wall and trying to breathe normally. The sounds of conversation and excitement filter through the doors behind her, but out here it's quiet enough to think. Maya realizes she's shaking. For 10 years, she dreamed of playing like that for an audience. She imagined what it would feel like to share her music with the world, but she never thought about what would happen afterwards. Maya? She turns to see Mrs. Wilson standing in the hallway, looking concerned. Are you okay, honey? You looked a little overwhelmed in there. Maya nods, though she's not sure okay is the right word. I just needed a minute. Mrs. Wilson walks over and leans against the wall beside her. For a moment, they stand uncomfortable. Silence. You know, Mrs. Wilson says finally, I owe you an apology. Maya looks at her teacher in surprise. For what? For not seeing you, Mrs. Wilson says simply. For 3 years, you've been sitting in my classroom, and I never really looked. I never asked the right questions. I just assumed you were a quiet student who wasn't particularly interested in music. Maya doesn't know what to say to that. Part of her wants to point out that she worked very hard to be invisible, that Mrs. Wilson's assumptions were exactly what Maya wanted her to think. But another part of her understands what her teacher is really saying. Where did you learn to play like that? Mrs. Wilson asks gently. So Maya tells her. She talks about the YouTube videos and the community center piano and the years of teaching, herself in secret. She explains about wanting to stay invisible and being afraid of standing out. She talks about loving music so much that she couldn't stop herself from learning, even though she never planned to let anyone hear her play. Mrs. Wilson listens without interrupting, and when Maya finishes, her teacher is quiet for a long moment. Maya, she says finally, you have a gift that most people can only dream of. But more than that, you have something that can't be taught. You have real musical soul. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Before Maya can answer, the auditorium doors open and her parents appear, looking worried. There you are, her mother says with relief. We were looking everywhere for you. Her father joins them in the hallway, and Maya can see he's holding several business cards. Honey, there are a lot of people in there who want to talk to us about opportunities for you. Music schools, competitions, scholarship programs, ... Maya feels the panic rising again. Dad, I don't know if I want all that. What do you want? Her mother asks, and Maya realizes it's the first time anyone has asked her that question tonight. Maya thinks about it carefully. She thinks about the community center basement where she discovered who she really is. She thinks about the feeling of playing Chopin tonight, of finally being able to share her music with people who could appreciate it. She thinks about all the years she spent hiding and how tired she is of being only half of herself. I want to keep playing, Maya says slowly. But I also want to help other kids who feel like they don't belong. Mrs. Wilson smiles. What do you mean? Maya takes a deep breath. There are probably other students like me, kids who have talents they're hiding because they're afraid or because they think people like them don't get opportunities like this. I want to find them and help them know it's okay to be good at something. Her parents exchange glances, and Maya can see they're trying to understand this new version of their daughter. What would that look like? Her father asks. Maya thinks about it. Maybe I could take some of those opportunities, like the conservatory program. But maybe I could also come back here sometimes and work with Mrs. Wilson to find the quiet kids in the back corners. The ones who might have something amazing inside them but are too scared to let it show. Mrs. Wilson's eyes light up. Maya, that's a beautiful idea. We could start a mentorship program, maybe offer after-school sessions for students who want to explore music but don't have access to private lessons. As they talk, Maya realizes something important has changed inside her. She's not the invisible girl anymore, but she's also not the scared teenager who walked onto that stage tonight. She's becoming someone new, someone who understands that. Her gift comes with responsibility. 6 months later, Maya performs her first concert as a scholarship student at the Regional Music Conservatory. The auditorium is packed with people who came specifically to hear the girl they're calling a piano prodigy. She plays beautifully, earning a standing ovation and glowing reviews, but Maya's proudest moment comes earlier that day during her weekly session at Lincoln High School. She's working with a shy freshman named Kevin who discovered he has an incredible ear for music but was too embarrassed to join the school choir because his family doesn't have money for voice lessons. I don't think I belong here, Kevin tells her as they sit at the old piano in Mrs. Wilson's classroom. Maya smiles, remembering when she felt exactly the same way. Kevin, let me tell you something. Sometimes the most beautiful music comes from the most unexpected places. You don't have to be rich or have fancy training to have something valuable to offer. You just have to be brave enough to let people hear it. She helps Kevin work through a simple song, watching his confidence grow with each note. When he hits a particularly beautiful phrase, his face lights up with the same joy Maya feels every time she touches the piano keys. Later that evening, Maya sits in her family's apartment, practicing on the same old piano where her journey began. Her parents are both home for dinner, a rare treat made possible by some of the money Maya has earned from her performances. As she plays, Maya reflects on how much has changed since that terrifying night when Mrs. Wilson assigned her Chopin's Ballade. She's no longer invisible, but she's learned that being seen doesn't have to mean losing herself. Instead, it means helping others find themselves too. The girl who once hid her light under a bushel has learned that some gifts are too important to keep secret. And sometimes the best way to honor a gift is to use it to lift others up, to show them that they belong in places they never thought they could go. Maya finishes her practice and closes the piano lid, smiling as she thinks about tomorrow's lesson with Kevin and the 3 other students who have joined their informal program.